listening to the Iterators of the Imperium.
Hi, I'm MEZ, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Ryan. And you're listening to Iterators of the Imperium Season 6. And this podcast is where Ryan is the expert on Warhammer 40k, and I'm the noob trying to learn about the Warhammer universe. We got a lot to dive into in today's episode, so yeah, I see Ryan is nodding right now.
Yep.
So strap in and rip on, and let's get into it.
Strap in and strap on, really? Okay.
That's what the TikTok generation is saying.
Yes.
I don't know.
I Okay. So, we're continuing the whole Ahriman storyline hang here. We left off last time, for the sake of everyone watching, with Ahriman ransacking the memories of an inquisitor named Iabel to get information on the Atheneum of Kalimakus. This ancient book is a copy of Magnus's tome, right? And again, the whole point in doing this is that he thinks there was a mistake in the original book, and he wants to get the copy, fix the mistake, and reproduce the rubrique, which, you know, damned the whole Legion the first time, so... Solid plan. You know, it's when I was looking back at all of this, because, like, I read these books ages ago, right? Like, years ago. And it's looking back at it now to write up these notes, I'm like, he's not a smart man, Ahriman, is he? He's like,
No.
I'm going to hinge my entire life's goal objective around the idea that my father, who is, like, second only to the actual god of sorcery, made a mistake. And you're like, doesn't sound very likely. Although saying that, Magnus does have a track record of fucking up a lot of stuff, so...
Yeah.
like, anyway, like, thinking about that, yeah, Magnus is most famous for messing things up. So actually, no, maybe it was a safe bet. It's like, maybe he was looking at it like, why am I suddenly going to start trusting my dad now? What are the chances this is the one thing you didn't fuck up? Oh. So, at the same time as Ahriman's, you know, ransacking her memories, you also have his right-hand man, Ignis, who appears to be recruiting followers to oust Ahriman, so that's not great. So he's got a traitor in his own ranks. There's also a pack of space wolves who are gradually closing in on him, hunting him through the galaxy. And also the Inquisition has been involved at for some part of this. And considering they kidnapped an Inquisitor, they're probably coming back for, you know, like, a round 2, Electric Boogaloo kind of thing. So, he's kind of surrounded by enemies on all sides. It's not a great situation to be in, but, like, the trap hasn't, like, closed yet, if you get what I mean. It's just enemies circling from a distance.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So, yeah, it's a great place to be. Also... just as a reminder, there is a guy called Himelian who is among Ahriman's people right now. Because the planet, Volhal, that they bombed to kidnap this Inquisitor, right? They kidnapped the governor of the planet and just, like, kept him as a pet. So, I don't know, like, it's weird that they did this, but they just kidnapped this governor. They took no one else off the planet other than the Inquisitor. But even then, they bombed the planet 2 years prior so that the Inquisitor would be there 2 years later. So they kidnapped this guy and just kept him around for 2 years. And he just kind of walked around the ship, like, what do I do now? Like, they weren't torturing him, it had no information, had no value, they just had him around.
That feels so disrespectful, you know?
Right? They didn't care enough to chain me up or anything.
It's a fate worse than death, right?
It kind of is. It's become nobody.
Yeah.
So, do you remember that I mentioned the guy Sanact, the sorcerer who was like a master swordsman, it seemed like he was teaming up with Ignis in this whole treachery thing.
Yeah.
Because Sanact is kind of like one of the weaker sorcerers, but he is like a significantly better swordsman than any of the rest of them are. But sorcery-wise, he's one of the weaker ones. They gave Himelian to him for some reason. So Sanact is like planning treachery and just has like a random fat guy following him around all the time. Just like a shadow, just like, all right, okay. Hi, I'm Sanact. This is, what's your name again? Like, I don't know. This is my shadow, I guess.
Mr. Butlick.
Aye. But like, Sanact also doesn't give a shit about this guy. He just realizes that they gave him to him because they also don't really care about Sanact. Which is great. He's been like demoted to babysitter. So I mean, I can kind of see why he's a bit of a traitor to Ahriman, you know, considering all of this. It's not exactly very respectful of his time, you know. It's like, I know you're like a galaxy class swordsman and one of the last, like, 300 sorcerers of our legion, but can you watch this random human? Why? So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So I guess the place to start is with the Inquisitor and Ahriman, the memory stealing. Because, like I explained, it's basically just they're going through her memories, and he just keeps, like, taking over the role of one of the people in her memories to harass her and, like, talk shit. But eventually, these memories get to the moment that she was, like, taken to this random planet by another Inquisitor called Izdabar, because he wanted to show her something that he'd found. And what he had found was a rubricate. He'd found one of the rubric marines and, like, captured it. So he, at this point, explains to her about the Atheneum of Kalimakus and all that stuff. The information that Ahriman wanted. So Ahriman kind of joins into the memory at this point and tries to steal this information from her mind. Because he's found, like, the right point to do it from, I guess. Ahriman, like, takes over the position of that Inquisitor Izdabar and tries to, like, steal her memories. It's only in doing this that she kind of clocks what's going on. The only reason he has so much freedom, like, to do stuff like that is because it's within his mind that all of this is going on. Ahriman had that, like, mind palace thing. All of this is like a construction within his mind palace. So she's like, wait a minute, that means I can change things here. I can just like exert my own will over your mind. So suddenly the rubricate is free, comes to life and starts attacking Ahriman and all this shit. So she starts like fighting back, which is quite fun. So that fighting back leads to her breaking out of, like, the constructions of her memories within Ahriman's mind, and they end up in, like, a totally separate area, fighting still, and it all ends with Ahriman turning into a flock of crows and, like, eating her. He likes crows, man. It's a thing. There's a lot of crows with Ahriman, but he turns into a flock of crows and just kind of consumes her. And then she wakes up one more time in a cave with Ahriman and some hooded, like some guy in like a robe with a hood up, and she just starts like, I guess questioning Ahriman's motives. Like, you say you're doing all this to help your people, but like, why the fuck are you actually doing this? Because this is pretty weird shit to be doing. Like, surely you could help them by, like, rebuilding, or, like, finding them a safe haven, or, a million other things. But no, you're killing Inquisitors and kidnapping people and blowing shit up. Like, doesn't make a lot of sense, mate. And Ahriman kind of just like, I already got your information, sod off. So she kind of just fades away after that. And Ahriman is found, like, in the real world, outside of the memories, because apparently in eating her as a flock of crows, he got her memories. So he has the information he needed now. So the whole memory ransacking thing is dealt with now, luckily, and she's gone, I guess. So in the kind of real world, Caden, remember Astrios' brother, the one that got, like, briefly possessed, and then Ahriman managed to save him, but he's still kind of all corrupted and stuff. A lot of his limbs are now metaling. Yeah. So that guy finds Ahriman, like, lying on the floor, bleeding and injured. Because if you fight in your mind and you get hurt, you actually do get hurt. It's like damaging your soul rather than your body. But it's a whole thing. So Caden just finds this guy injured. What?
It's just like like in movies, where the Simpsons where something is going wrong in your mind, right? Is so suddenly the nosebleed, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like
So,
that.
you're just sitting there like, No, you've seen that before.
I have. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's like, yeah, it's kind of like that, except it's more like a stab wound and stuff like that appears.
Oh,
um,
oh
y-
no way.
yeah, no, like he finds Ahriman. He's just like lying on the floor, like actually injured, like he's been in a battle, like bleeding,
Wait,
and yeah,
so when you say that, it's like when you get stabbed in your mind, you literally get that physically in, you know.
kinda. Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of stuff comes up in 40k about people having like their souls destroyed or damaged, things like that. And if your soul is destroyed, you just collapse dead, right? A lot of the sorcerers and stuff, this is a thing they deal with. They will just die, and their body will be exhausted and kind of ragged and stuff like that. But it seems to manifest as physical wounds in some cases, but it tends to be when it's like sorcerer on sorcerer violence. So
Yeah.
I don't know for a fact, but I think in this case, the reason Ahriman is physically injured from the battle within his mind is because it's within his mind. She would have been exerting these things upon his mind, and I think his powers would have then produced the reality of it. You know what I mean? I think because it all takes place in him, no matter which way it goes, his powers make it a reality. Because usually it's like one sorcerer on another, and their power like enforces the reality of a wound to the soul on the other's body. But I think in this case, he kind of did it to himself. But it's not something that's really explained or elaborated upon. It's just kind of a thing.
Huh.
Magic's weird, man. That's basically all it comes down to.
Magic's magic.
Yeah, a wizard did it.
What? But how did it happen? It wasn't. A wizard did it.
A wizard did it. And the funny thing is, it's not even wrong in this case. He's magic, he has a book, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so Caden finds Ahriman lying there injured, bleeding, whatever. And he kind of stands over him for a minute like, I could just kill him. Like, he's not going anywhere, I could just murder the guy. Revenge! And Ahriman kind of like mumbles to him that he got the information he needed, so Caden's like, oh, fine, and decides to help him. So, Caden helps Ahriman get to like the bridge of the ship to meet all the important people in his crew. And he explains what he's learned. So it turns out that the Atheneum is on a moon called Apollonia. Right? Interesting thing. The moon is like, so you know how our moon like orbits our planet. The Apollonia is a moon that doesn't orbit. It's like it's like locked in orbit. It doesn't turn with the planet. So it's always an eclipse. There's no sunlight from from that system of planet stars gets to this moon. It's just always darkness, which is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anywho, so he finds out the thing they're looking for is on this planet called Apollonia. There's a labyrinth on the planet, and the book is at the center of it. It's protected by a cult of humans and nothing else. So there's no like military forces or anything like that. There is like 12 normal human people. And that's it. Which is a bit suspect considering how dangerous this particular thing is meant to be. That they wouldn't have like an army and titans and shit protecting it. But no, they have 12 random humans looking after this thing. Don't know why. So they're like, we should really prepare for a battle, but like apparently there's not gonna be one. But like let's make sure we're ready for that just in case. You
Yeah.
know. Also, a bunch of people are like, oh yeah, we can't wait to get for the fight, and Ahriman's like, nope, I'm only taking a handful of the Rubricae because I can control them to do whatever the fuck I want. Caden, because he's my mate for a little while now, and he's kind of demon so I should probably keep an eye on him. And Sanact, because he's a master swordsman. I'm only taking like 10 people with me, and 8 of them aren't even people. They're just walking armor. And a couple of the people on the bridge are like, oh dude, what the fuck, I want to get in the fight, and whatever. Now, there's a whole bit that goes on here with the treachery side of things, right? Because Ahriman fucks off to go organise stuff. Ignis and Sanat kind of peel off, as well to discuss their plans. And this is like a great benefit for them, because Sanac now is going to have Ahriman alone on this planet in the labyrinth. So he has a perfect opportunity to, oust him, to fucking take his head off or whatever. Also, do you remember Maroth, the creepy broken sorcerer from the very start? He was like Ahriman's boss at the start, and then after Ahriman kind of came back to his powers, he was kind of like a demented idiot. And he's like bonded to a demon. No?
Not really.
Don't worry about it, he's not very important. Maroth is this little creepy broken chaos sorcerer that's hanging around. And he's bonded to a demon that's in a dead Space Marine's body. He made it thinking he could control it, then the demon kind of took over his mind, it's a whole thing. So this guy turns up and explains to Ignis and Sanac that he knows something about the Atheneum that Ahriman doesn't. He has some secret information. Ignis is like, well, how the fuck did you find out something he didn't? Because he just ransacked her mind. You know what I mean? How the fuck would you know something that he didn't? Maroth ate her body, so he gained her memories. Turns out she hid something from Ahriman as she was dying. So the little trio or little squad of like revolutionaries against Ahriman now have like a secret piece of information that'll give them an advantage against him while they're down there, while Sanac is ready to like murder him. So he can be prepared for whatever and use it against him. So that aside, Ahriman moves forward with his plan. Summons up the navigator Sylvanus to guide them to their location. Weirdly, as Sylvanus is making his way to the bridge, Himelian, the pointless governor, attacks him on his way there, and he doesn't hurt him or anything. He kind of just like jumps him and then leaves after he sees his face. He's just like, the two of them end up walking away from each other, like, what the fuck was that about? Just a really, like, nothing moment. All it kind of stands to do is show that, like, Himelian is quite happy to, like, fight against these people that, took everything from him and that. So, Himelian's kind of going a bit nuts as well, and he might be in on the whole plan with Sanac and Ignis and that. We're not really sure. But, whatever. Eventually, the Sylvanus makes it to the bridge, slightly more confused than he was when he first started that journey. And guides their fleet to Apollonia. It's kind of a weird warp journey. Like, every warp journey is weird because you're, like, seeing into magic space in, like, another dimension of carnage and nonsense. But this one is more weird. There's, like, a bunch of extra voices talking to Sylvanus and trying to, like, guide him the wrong way and stuff. So it's kind of like something is actively trying to, like, make sure he doesn't get to this place. Like, this is some kind of defense mechanism for it that, like, not only, like, sorry, it's not that it's not defended, it's that the defenses are of a different nature. It's not physical defenses. It seems to be, like, psychological and psychic defenses. So, like, a normal navigator would never be able to get there because they would be guided the wrong way by these voices if they were trying to go to this place. It's only because Ahriman steps in and kind of, like, nudges him back to the right course that they don't end up in the, like, middle of the other side of the galaxy. So, there's that, which is interesting. And, yeah, when they get there, they have to bomb the planet a little bit because there's weird psychic shielding over it and all this crap, whatever. Does nothing. Whole fleet emerges over this tiny, shitty moon, organizes into their patterns, and Ahriman and Sanac teleport down, or get ready to teleport down to the planet. I should mention that to kick off the whole treachery part of this plan, before or while they're in the warp journey, Sanac murders Caden. He just finds him and shanks the life out of him. Because obviously he was going down to the planet with them and he would have protected Ahriman. And he's also not a sorcerer, so, like, that's not great for what's going on. You don't want anyone that's not a sorcerer kicking around if you're trying to have, like, a sorcery sword fight with someone to the death. So he murders Caden. So they arrive, all organized to do whatever they're gonna do. Ahriman, a handful of Rubricate, and Sanact teleport down to the planet into this labyrinth thing they have to get to the middle of. I should mention, Ahriman's flagship, like the main ship of his fleet, is the Sycorax, the one he stole from Ammon after he killed him, right? And when Ahriman and that leave the ship to go do their, getting the book thing, Ignis is left in charge. Because again, he's like Ahriman's right-hand man. But he doesn't run the fleet from the Sycorax. He runs it from his own ship, which is called the Word of Hermes. Just so you know. Right? So he's like, organizing fleet movements and everything, like keeping everyone in line. So, Ahriman and Sanat get into this labyrinth. Pretty quickly they realize that it's not just a maze. It's like, it messes with your mind and your senses, so you don't know what the fuck is going on, and you'll get lost really easily and stuff like that. It's like up is down, left is right, back is forward, shit like that. So you just end up like no idea where the fuck you're going at any time. It's a great way to have a labyrinth, but there would be a lot of corpses. Just anyone that gets in is gonna fall down and die in a corner somewhere. So that's a, pretty typical magic labyrinth thing, I would imagine. I've not been in many, I just assume that's a pretty standard defense mechanism for a magic labyrinth. Could be wrong, could be right, I don't know. Back with the fleet, Ignis kicks off, planned treachery properly, and he organises it so that a bunch of the ships in the fleet all start attacking each other. So Ahriman's fleet is now destroying itself. Carmenta, the tech priest who's is part of the Sycorax now, and is losing her mind slowly, is watching all of this through the sensors and stuff of the Sycorax, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Because it seems an awful lot like Ignis is a traitor right now, and then totally out of left field, I was going to say out of left field and point to the right, totally out of left field, comes this pure silver ship. Right, this big ass ship called the Sigillite's Oath. This is the Inquisition. So, big reveal time. Astraeos, the sorcerer that Ahriman had kind of taken under his wing in the first part, who died at the start of this section. Yeah, he's still alive. They've just had him on that ship in captivity and been ransacking his mind for memories, like Ahriman was doing to their Inquisitor. So they knew where Ahriman was gonna be and what he was trying to do, so they've just turned up to fuck everything up for him. Bruh. I know, right? So now the Inquisition's involved, and a bunch of Grey Knights, the Space Marines that are, made purely to kill demons that work for the Inquisition. A bunch of them start teleporting onto, ships in the fleet, like the Sycorax and stuff like that, or the Word of Hermes to get Ignis, and a bunch of them teleport down to the planet with Inquisitor Izdabar, which is the one that told Iabel about all of this in the first place. So, that's the thing. Also, just to make all of this worse, not only does the Inquisition turning up totally fuck up Ignis's plan, because now they're in the middle and blowing up other ships and things like that, and the ships can't focus on destroying the ones he's ordered them to, because they've got to fight the Inquisition now. Also, Himelian, the fucking governor that's just been stalking around this whole time, stabs Carmenta, who is, running the Sycorax right now. So when she dies, the Sycorax, the flagship, just turns off. It just goes totally dead in the void. So, everything's kind of fucked. Ahriman's in a magic maze with a guy who's definitely gonna stab him. Ignis has half the fleet blowing itself up. The Inquisition's fucking getting involved. And the main flagship is just turned off. Yeah, it's a great time to be. Ignis then finds himself attacked by a group of Grey Knights that have came for him on his ship, while, they ransack every other ship in the fucking fleet. He does manage to kill them all, because, interestingly, I've never mentioned this yet, right? Ignis, quite a cool guy, his whole thing is destroying stuff with mathematics. Pretty weird, but whatever. He likes geometry, his whole thing, but it's explosive geometry. Anyway, he also always has with him, a battle robot called Credence. So between Ignis being, the god of pyromancy, and Credence just being nothing but a giant walking cannon, they do manage to just totally fuck up this squad of Grey Knights that appear. They just mulch them. It's honestly quite embarrassing for the Grey Knights. I really would have expected more from you guys. Like, this is your whole job. Like, you do one thing. Unfortunately for them, Ignis also only does one thing, and it's kill stuff. So, Ignis tries to contact Ahriman, because, you know, he's realised how bad everything is and he wants to figure out what to do. Can't get a hold of Ahriman, so he decides to make an executive decision and orders some of the fleet to blow up the Sycorax. They all just start firing on it whenever they get a spare minute away from shooting the Inquisition. Fair warning, or actually no, not fair warning, just an extra bit of information. The Inquisition did not come alone. It's not just this one big-ass silver ship, which in itself would be a threat. They brought like a fleet of smaller ships as well. So it is like a full-on space battle going on. It's not just like Ahriman's 500 ships blowing up this one Inquisition ship. Like, there is like a proper battle going on with like a whole like fleet-on-fleet kind of thing. But the Sigillite's Oath is the important one, which is why I mentioned it. It's also very dramatic that a silver ship just flies in out of nowhere and fucks your day up. So yeah, the Sycorax is now going to be destroyed, which is a thing. Back with Ahriman, because I'm pacing it to keep the drama up, right? It's going to pay off. You'll enjoy it. So, Ahriman, very dramatic moment here. He and Sanact arrive at what appears to be their objective, eventually, after they make their way through this crazy, mind-fucking labyrinth. And the reason that they think it's is because they find this big-ass wooden door that's got all these archaic Magnus-related symbols carved into it. So they're like, that's probably it. As they approach the door, Ahriman feels like this wave of, like, wash over him, and his powers, linked to the warp, fades away. And then all the Rubricae that are with him just kind of, like, stop dead, just totally, like, turned off. And Ahriman, like, collapses to his knees and is, like, almost dying. This is the secret that Meroth had found out from eating the Inquisitor. It's that the cult that protects this thing are all psychic blanks. They're all pariahs. So he knew that when they got here, none of them would have their powers. It would come down to a physical fight. And Sanact is a master swordsman. So he has a massive advantage in a physical fight.
Mm-hmm. You see?
But also, this is why he needed to kill Caden before this point, because Caden wasn't a sorcerer. He wouldn't have gave a shit about not having powers. He would have just blown Sanact's head off with a bolter. So, you know, actually, in reality, I think he probably would have died because he was kind of half demon at this point. I think he probably would have just collapsed. But that aside, you know, loose ends and all that. So Ahriman kind of collapses and Sanact stands over him and kind of explains to him that he is a traitor and that he plans to kill him and all the stuff he's done to organize all of this. And that, you know, Meroth ate the corpse of the Inquisitor and knew all... He explains the whole thing. It's like a Bond villain telling him the plan before he actually does it.
Yeah.
And, like, Sanact is, like, you know, he's feeling pretty happy. He's pretty confident. He's like, my plan's all coming together. Fuck you, Ahriman. I'll fucking have you. And then it all kind of comes tumbling down. Big reveal again. Fucking Ahriman planned all of this. So Ignis is actually Ahriman's man on the inside. He had him, like, go around and round up anyone that was going, or that had, like, traitorous tendencies towards Ahriman, so that he could find out who they all were and kill them all in one fell swoop. So the fleet that's all attacking each other, it's all people that would have turned against Ahriman, fighting other people that would have turned against Ahriman, thinking they're loyalists. So he has all the traitors killing each other in the fleet. The reason it was Sanact and Caden he was bringing with him is because he wanted to kill Sanact, because he knew he was a traitor. Obviously, Caden dying isn't much of a loss, because Caden was turning more and more into a demon by the day, so he was just a liability anyway, so that was, you know, he was prepared to lose him. That's acceptable losses, that is. Carmenta being killed by Himelian, perfectly reasonable. She was going to lose her mind any minute and think she was just a spaceship, so she was a liability. And the Sycorax, he doesn't give a shit about the Sycorax. So everything that's happened has all been coordinated by Ahriman. The other thing is that by blowing up the Sycorax, everyone he cared about was already off of it. You know what I mean? Everyone that was important had already been taken off of the ship. The only people left on board were a bunch of people that were probably going to be traitors one day, and then, like, serfs and slaves. It's like, So, yeah, Sanact is very suddenly like, shit, that's not great. So, Ahriman, like, Sanact tries to get Ahriman to, like, fight him. He, like, stabs him and then tries to get Ahriman to, like, at least die fighting, because he is gonna kill him, And Ahriman's like, no. You're gonna die, not me. I planned this shit. Like, I orchestrated all of this, right? You're gonna die, and then I'm gonna go back to the fleet and tell everyone you died a martyr, saving my life for our cause, and then anyone who would have turned against me because of your death will be, like, galvanized into following me in your honor. So you're gonna become, like, a symbol for people to follow me. And right on cue, this is when the Grey Knights that had teleported down to get Ahriman turn up and gun down Sanact. They just blow him apart from behind. So, yeah, he did die. That's exactly what happened. Sanact fucking died. Ahriman obviously just slowly walks towards this big-ass door, while the Inquisitor shouts at him to fucking stop. They do shoot him in the back a couple of times, but all it does is make him, like, fall against the door. So he just, like, pushes it open, and they all see, you know, the cult and stuff inside. It's a small, like, circular chamber with a bunch of robed, hooded weirdos, you know, proper cultists, in a circle around a guy at a lectern who is just like a withered corpse, writing on a bit of parchment. So the people in the robes are the pariahs that are cutting off the warp from here. The guy in the middle is actually the Atheneum of Kalimakus. It's a guy, not a book, who is like a living link to Magnus's mind. So everything he's writing down, it just automatically, like a printer, just scrawling out all of Magnus's thoughts at all times.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really weird, and it does. In a future part of this, they do explain how this occurred and, you know, what it's all about, but that's in, like, part 3 of this. For the time being, Ahriman guns down all the pariahs, his powers come back, the Rubricae that were with him come back to life, murder all of the Grey Knights. There is one of them, Ahriman ends up in, like, a crazy mind duel with, a guy called, like, Sendrian or something like that. He's meant to be important. He was the one that was interrogating Astrios the whole time, so he's been written up as, like, an important character, but Ahriman just fucks him, and that's it, done. So, dead. Yeah. The Inquisitor that was with him, Isdabar, he doesn't die at this point. He kind of hangs around a bit longer, but he doesn't really do much here. And as, like, a last thing for this section, Ahriman basically kills the old man who is this link to Magnus, and has Sanact's body take on the role. So Sanact's body kind of comes back to life, but it's not Sanact anymore. He's just nothing but a living link to Magnus's mind. So he just kind of prattles archaic, cryptic bullshit for a while. Just talks in riddles and nonsense. But it means that Ahriman can take it with him now. Which is important.
Yeah.
So Ahriman now has his overall objective in hand, which is great. Now, are you ready for, like, what I think is the 4th big reveal? I'm losing count of the big reveals. There's a lot of them, because we're nearing the end. This is how these books always go. It's a lot of build-up, and the last 10 minutes are just like, but you never saw this coming! 4th big reveal. Meroth, the demented sorcerer that had a demon he was bound to and all that crap, whatever. he ends up getting, like, body swapped with the demon. So the demon is walking around in his body now, like, possessing him properly, and he's stuck in its body in, like, a sealed-up chamber on the Sycorax as it gets gunned down by the fleet. And the demon just kind of walks through the ship as there's, like, holes being blown in it and fire going everywhere. And he just makes his way to the bridge and just sits back in the captain's throne and just waits. Just this demon in Meroth's body, just like...
Sleep.
Yeah. But wait, there's more. More big reveal. Astraeos, still alive on the Inquisition ship, the Sigillites Oath, which is fighting against Ahriman's fleet at the moment, wakes up, realizes he's in captivity, and this time manages to break out of his confines. He then charges through the Inquisition ship and ends up just murdering everything he finds along the way. Eventually comes to a squad of 4 Grey Knights who have to summon an angel to kill him. And he does die. He, like, feels his body and his soul being torn apart at the same time. Like, he knows he's dying. And... there's things where, like, time slows down when someone's dying in a movie and stuff like that, and they, like, go through a bunch of their own thoughts. It does that with him. Yeah. It does that with Astraeos here, as he's, like, feels himself dying. And he kind of thinks about, like, why all this happened and why he bothered with it, and basically realizes it was all about revenge this whole fucking time. And then he hears, like, a voice talk to him, and he's like... And he remembers the demon that he had, like, made a deal with at one point. This demon that he was bound to very briefly. Which is the same one that is now walking around in Meroth's body. And he's like, oh, well, even if I called to it, it wouldn't be able to help me. And it's just like, call me and I'll be there. So he calls to it. The next thing, it just wakes up, like, perfectly fine and a lot more powerful, and just incinerates the Grey Knights, opens a warp portal, and just disappears into the galaxy. So that's just setting up shit for the future, by the way. Like, he's gonna come back with a vengeance down the line. Because he's now fucking, like, demonic Astraeos now. There's, like, shit's going sideways there. It did kind of fuck up the Inquisition's control of, like, the battlefield here, though, since their own ship got attacked from inside for a minute there. Yeah. Like, hold on, let's ignore the space battle for a minute so we can deal with this arsehole. So... yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, like I said, that's a special tool that'll help us later. So, Ahriman obviously has what he came for. Oh, the Sycorax actually explodes after Astraeos pisses off, by the way. So it seems like the demon kind of just gone, finished it off. Or the damage to the ship finally became too much for it. I don't know. The Sycorax finally explodes. Ahriman goes to escape from the shitey moon that he's on with... Sanak's body with him. He is briefly attacked by Inquisitor Izdubar, who had kind of just, like, hidden away and not gotten involved. It kind of leads to nothing, because it's a random Inquisitor human attacking Ahriman, and he's just kind of like, meh. Just moves on with his life, fucks off the planet, and rejoins up with Ignis, because obviously Ignis is his right-hand man, and was loyal this entire time. So Ahriman ends up on Ignis's ship in some sort of form of safety with the Atheneum in hand. The moon itself implodes into, like, a big weird warp vortex thing. I think it's meant to be because it was, like, the whole Atheneum being there thing had became, like, a part of the planet. I think, like, removing it or killing the guy and removing it caused, like, the warp to go all fucky for a minute, and it kind of destroyed the planet. Whole thing. So anyway, there's a big warp vortex thing there now that leads directly to Prospero, Ahriman's homeworld. Magnus's homeworld, actually, not Ahriman's homeworld, Magnus's homeworld. Because that's where they did the Rubrique the first time. So it's all tied together in some way or another. Finish where it began, all that kind of crap. So Ignis and Ahriman end up just kind of, like, looking over the situation. They're like, right, so we've got the thing we came here for. We have half of the fleet that we did because they were traitors and we killed them. The flagship is gone and we're being attacked by an entire fleet of Imperial ships. they could kill us. Like, we could still lose before we actually do anything here, because they massively outnumber us. This is not great. They're kind of just like, just take a moment to be like, yeah, we might be fucked. What are we gonna do? And then from this crazy warp storm thing that's piled out, like that's appeared, comes a bunch of new spaceships, right? Proper Space Marine warships, right? I'm going to tell you their names. I want to see if you can kind of guess who these people are. There is Hell's Daughter, Stormworm, Cronehammer, and Death's Laughter.
I
No,
Hell's
to be fair,
start.
it's the spelling of hell that would tip you off more than that. Crones are also a big part of it, and worm is also WYRM. It's the spelling more than anything that tips you off. But this is the space wolves that have been hunting Ahriman this whole time finally fucking turned up.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well then.
Yeah, so like it went from the Inquisition could probably kill us to we're dead. Like we're gonna get eaten by wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to everyone's fucking surprise, the Space Wolves attack the Inquisition, not Ahriman's ships. Totally flips the battle in Ahriman's favor, because the Inquisition are not prepared to defend against these guys when they turn up. They're like, shit yeah, reinforcements! And just like, bang, 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 bang. Like, why are they boarding us? So that's fun. Now there's like 4 Space Marine warships just rocked up, now just decimating the Inquisition fleet. For the record, the reason this all occurred with the Space Wolves is they were following like one of their priest's prophetic dreams that were like leading them to this, to, you know, get involved in this battle in this way. And it's only as they're like slaughtering Inquisition troops and Grey Knights and stuff that the rune priest realizes he cannot see the visions anymore, and he's like, wait, I never really thought to question where the visions were coming from. I kind of just did what they said.
Yeah.
That's not great.
Nah.
So they were just totally misled. I assume by Ahriman, but it could have just been some chaos god fucking with them for the sake of helping Ahriman. These kind of things happen once in a while. And yeah, they've just totally fucked up. So the rune priest allows one of his guys to kill him out of like penitence, you know, like I fucked up, take my head and stuff like that. And he just said, like, before he dies, he just says to this other dude, he's like, look, I can't see visions anymore, so whatever path you want to follow, that's on you, man. And then he beheads him. So he might turn up later on again, we don't know. But with the Inquisition fleet now totally fucked up because of the interference of the Space Wolves, Ahriman and Ignis and all that take their chance to get the fuck out of there, heading towards Prospero. Again, if they're gonna redo this whole rubrique thing, apparently the key to making it successful is to do everything basically exactly the same. Because they're heading back to the exact same location that they fucked up in the first time. So that's fun. And that's kind of the end of this part of the story, you know? That's kind of the end of part 2, is that he now has the means to be able to replicate this ritual again and hopefully fix the Legion once and for all. As there is a couple of epilogue things that I should mention. The first is just kind of weird. The Inquisitor that Ahriman, like, mind-fucked, Iobel, she's just alive inside his mind now. She just, like, walks around exploring his mind palace and, like, talking to him once in a while now. Just hangs around. Apparently, if you eat someone's mind as a flock of crows, they just become a part of you now. So, just every time he goes into his mind palace, he's just, like, hanging around, like, I don't like this piece of art. And he's like, I don't care. It's like, well, you shut up. So, that's a mildly irrelevant detail, but she comes up a bit in the future. Also, you know how I mentioned one of the Grey Knights that Ahriman killed in like a mind duel was meant to be important?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sendrian. Anyway, he wakes up like 7 years later, still alive, but now he's a dreadnought. Anyway, that'll do us for today. So we'll get into part 3 of Ahriman's story next time.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to round us out?
Oh, sure can do. I thought you were like building up to something like that.
No, I was not. No. I'm building down.
Well, I wanted this one off by a little joke. I put it in Discord, so don't look right. Which Warhammer character is a pirate's favorite?
Red Corsairs? They're pirated.
Ahriman! And thank you guys for watching this episode of the Iterators of the Imperium podcast. See you in the next one. Take care and peace.
Bye.